Welcome to this week's What's in Your Box, and you'll notice we've moved inside. The weather's getting a bit inclement to be filming out there now, so we've moved here into my office. This week's Wild Box is based around Indian cuisine, and we're quite pleased to have put together sort of a whole meal with the different elements, which they include a curry. We've left you to do your own rice dish, but there's a sweet cabbage and mustard seed one, and then there's a raita and a kachamba. So I'll say more about those, but that's the theme. And also the thing that runs quite strongly through this week's box is the cabbage family again. 4 out of the 7 ingredients are in the cabbage family. And it does reflect something I've alluded to before, which is that the cabbage family plants are pretty hardy and seem to just thrive in the more challenging circumstances of winter. There's an exception to that though. The watercress is a little less hardy, and in fact it's testament to the fact that we haven't had a lot of frost yet. Once the frost really kicks in, then we find that the watercress is knocked back for several months after that. So we'll enjoy it while we can. And this charlock is actually, it's a prolific agricultural weed, and farmers have been trying to get rid of this for centuries. One of the reasons they have had little success with that is that the seeds, which also form part of this week's Wild Box, are obviously filled with mustard oils. And those mustard oils act as a kind of preserving element to the active part that needs to remain viable. And they can last for over 100 years. So the farmer keeps on ploughing or spraying or whatever, but there'll still be viable seeds in there that can still crop up. And then the 4th cabbage family plant is this sea radish, which is hardy in a different context. It's very well adapted to survive the bitter winter winds and salt sea spray down on the coast, because as the name suggests, it's one that grows on the beach. There's another coastal plant here, which is sea arrowgrass. It has appeared in the box before, but it's nice to include it this week in this Indian themed box because it has the flavour of coriander, which is a key flavour in Indian cooking, but also a little bit of coconut. So that's going to be in a thing called a kachamba, which is like a sort of side relish, a little bit like a salsa in Mexican cooking. And it's designed to give a little bit of freshness and bite to the meal. It's wonderful the way that Indian meals are composed in this way, the different elements. There's a lot more thought and tradition goes into it than many cuisines, including our own, I think. Lastly, there's Alexander's, which is a very strong flavour, as all of you will know by now, if you've been with us for a while. But you'll also know that if you cook it for long enough, that it really mellows out. And that's going to be, actually it's not lastly, I'll just say about this one, this is 3-cornered garlic again, which fits in just about anywhere if you're cooking savoury stuff or making salads. And that's going to go as basically as a garnish on top of the cabbage dish that we've got. So let me just run through the whole meal that we've prepared then. So the cabbage dish that I've just mentioned, that's cooked with these charlock seeds. We've adapted, very much just adapted a straightforward traditional recipe with mustard seeds and cabbage, only using these wild mustard seeds, the charlock. And then chopping some of this fresh 3-cornered garlic on the top at the end. There's a dish which is basically a curry that you can adapt any way you like. We've done it with chicken and vegetables, so you can make it just vegetables or even use a different meat. But for that we've got some stalks and stems in to give a bit of body to the vegetable part of it. And so we've used the stalks of the sea radish, we've used the stalks of the Alexanders, and in this case we have cooked it for longer. But I will say that if you like that pungency with Alexander's, you'll get away with it in a curry. You can put quite a lot of it in the same way as you can in a coleslaw. The other flavours balance it out, and it holds its own without dominating. And then lastly, the stems of this watercress provide some of that body of veg in the curry. And the watercress leaves will go in at the end. Some of the Alexander's leaves will go in the end of the cooking of the curry, but some of the Alexander's leaves will also go into a raita, and that's with the charlock, which this time we've done raita with wild mustards before. This time we're going to do it with a cooked mustard, so it'll be less mustardy and just have a sort of warm sort of flavour of greens and a little bit of bite with the Alexander's leaf. Yeah, so that's it for this week's What's in Your Box.
Warbot number 32.
32.